All right, guys. So in this first video, what we are going to do is to deal with the login logout functionality. So when you log in, log out, so it should save the state, because in the previous video, what we had is we have built the authentication functionality, but if I refresh, we see that okay, it's not there anymore. So we want to save that state to to save that state to our local storage, so that whenever we come back, okay, we will find that same user. All right. So for that, we need to change a bit our backend, because right now, if you look at the backend, let's look at the backend. If you look at the backend, okay, when we log in, we just send the user, but what we'll actually send is uh, going to be the a token that will generate. All right. So for that, we need to define a token here. So a generate token method for the user model. So I'm going to create here another one. So it's going to be a methods in this case. I'll say user schema that methods, okay, that let's say generate token equals. So it's going to be still an asynchronous function. And this is going to uh, use the bcrypt. Okay, so we have not bcrypt, but JSON Web Token. In our package.json, we have installed the JSON Web Token. All right, this one. It's just a way to crypt, okay, or to generate a token for us that we can later decrypt. Okay, let's say we want to crypt the user ID, which we'll do. So we crypt the user ID, okay, make it a token, and then send that user ID inside of the user's information. All right. So here, what we'll do is I'm going to say const user equals, okay, this, which means the instance that called the generate token. Okay, and the next thing is we'll generate the token by saying const token. So we await. All right, so we use JSON Web Token, so I can say const jwt equals, so I will require JSON Web Token. Okay, and now I can come back here and say await jwt. Okay, that's fine. All right, and we'll sign the underscore id, which is going to be basically the user that underscore id. Right, because in MongoDB we don't have like id, we have underscore id, so we want to take the user's id and then sign it. Okay, and we'll use for that a secret, because we need to have a secret that that's going to help us basically sign our secret. So we can say here whatever you want. Okay, I can say mail's secret, but most of the time you will have to keep this, okay, in in that env file, so that when you commit this, okay, it doesn't go to people won't see it, because that's what you need here when you are going to decode this token. That's what you will, that's what you will need, okay, to decode it. So if I say JSON Web Token like this, all right, so we see that we need to have, let's say, we need to have a token. Yeah, we have let's say the secret here. All right, and we can define an expires in, let's say. Okay, so the expires in, we can say 1 hour. If you look at right, so the expires in, okay, it can be 1 hour. Okay, you can define it using this is like in seconds, but a better way of doing it is probably uh, by saying, let's say, 2 days, okay, 10 hours, 7 days, or 24 hours. Okay, so we can say here for our token, we can say so expires in, okay, let's say 10 hours, like this, so that in 10 hours the token will expire. All right, so after we generate the token, what we'll do is we'll attach that token to the user, and then we'll save the user. So I can say here user.token, okay, equals the token, and we'll say await, okay, user.save, and we'll return, okay, we'll return the token like this. All right, so this is a method that is available for all the instances. What I mean by that is we have user schema that's statics, which is available only on the class instance, but the methods is available on the instance itself. Okay, let's say a user. When you say user.create, it creates an instance, but when you say just user uppercase, this is like the class. Okay, so after we find the user by credentials, in the, let's say in the user.create here, after we find it by credentials, after we create it, we'll generate a token for that user. So we can say here await user that generate token. Okay, and after that we can send the user, so we see what we'll have. So at the same time, when you log in, okay, we want to replace that token, so we can say await again user that generate token, and then we send the user. Okay, so now we should have some token when we send back the user. So we can check that. Let's check that in our React app. So if I log in as before, so I can say just here password, login. All right, so we can, let's inspect to see what we have. Look at we can look at the components here and look at, okay, the provider. Okay, so it's not saving this, or is it, or it's saving? All right, so we have the token now. If you look at the saved user now, we see that we have a token. All right, so we send the email, the password, and the token. All right, but sometimes, on most of the time, you don't want to send the password itself. So we are going to find a way to just send what we need to send here, right? So we have the still on the user schema. So we can say here user schema dot methods dot to JSON. So this is going to run by default, okay, whenever we want to send a JSON response. So whenever we want to send the user, okay, we are going to this is going to run by default, right? So we can change what we'll send by saying still const user equals this, okay, and const user object equals so user dot to object, to make it an object, to object, and in this object, okay, we'll remove things. So we'll remove delete user object dot password, because we don't want to send the password, and we return, okay, the user object, so that now we'll return this user object but without the password, because we don't want to send the password. Okay, so now we can try test the login again. Okay, so by saying password here, Right, so we have find by credentials. It's saying invalid credentials. Let's see. Yeah, the password is not correct, so try it again. Okay, so now let's see what we are sending. So you see that now we don't send anymore we just send the email and the token. All right, so you can as well remove the ID for the user. So let's remove the ID. So delete user object dot underscore ID, like this. Right, so now it should remove the ID, and then we just send what we need to send here. So let's say password login. Okay, so now we take the email because the email we need it, okay, to just show the user, but we don't need the ID, so we just send the email, okay, and the token. All right, so that's how we remove information that we don't want to send. Actually, we just need the token, so we don't send uh, information that we don't actually need. All right, so now after we send this, we need to save now the user's uh, information in the local storage. All right, so for that, after we, let's say we sign up, okay, we get some response, we set the user's data, okay, but here we don't just want to do that. We want to save to the local storage by saying local storage that set item here. So token, the token will be the data, of course, that token. Right, so now we save the token. The same goes for when we log in, so I can just have it here. So we save the token and we set the user. All right, so now let's see. Whenever I log in with the user, and we can now look at our local storage by clicking on application and local storage here. Okay, and now we get the token. So this is the token that we'll need. And let's say you refresh the page or you come back, okay, this token, let's say in 10 hours or in 24 hours, okay, it's still going to be valid. So let's change actually this to 24 hours, like this. It depends on what you want. All right, so now this token, okay, is still going to be valid. So we need to implement a way to log in the user with what we call the auto login. So I'm going to create a new route here by saying router dot post, okay, slash auto login. It takes async, so request response. All right, so now we need to have a middleware. So this middleware is going to authenticate the user every time. All right, so what we need to do is we need to decode what's coming, because in the auto login we will send let's say a token. Okay, we'll send the token, and this token is going to be decoded and then find the user, okay, by credentials. So we need to have what I call a middleware here, and this middleware is to authenticate the user. So I'm going to create here a file auth user.js. All right, so here I'm going to import a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to import, JWT equals require. So require JSON web token. I need as well the user by requiring the user, which is the user model. All right. And now I'll define the function by saying const auth user equals, so it's a asynchronous function. Can remove this function by just saying async. So rec res. All right, and we need something else, which is the next. The next, we haven't seen it in the routes here, but the next is a middle. It is like passing, okay, to the next middleware, because we'll have the auth user here. All right, auto login, auth user, and we need this, okay, to run, and then next pass it to the next, which is this one. All right, so in this auth user, we need to try, okay, try catch. What we'll try is we'll take the token. It's going to be a request that header, because we'll see that we send the token through the headers. Okay, so authorization. All right, and then we replace with something called bearer, because we'll send a bearer token, right, like this. So we replace the bearer because it's going to be something like this. Okay, what we'll send, a bearer and the token. Okay, the token that we'll have. So we have a bearer token, but we just need this token, okay, coming from the front end. So the token will come from the local storage here. Okay, so whenever you load the application, it's trying to auto login by sending us this token, and then we'll take the token with the bearer, just remove the bearer, and then verify the token. Now how do you verify the token? It's simple. We just say const decoded token equals, okay, we use JWT and we use the verify. The verify is a way of decoding the token. So we decode the user token, okay, and with the app secret. So the app secret is, if you look at the user model, we used a mail secret. So this is important. We say mail secret. All right, like this. And now we can say console log to see decoded token, what you have. So you see what you'll have. So you'll have an object with the ID, and you can take that, okay, ID. All right, and catch, you can say, so you can just log the error and raise that status. Okay, so 500, that's it. You don't need this. All right, and of course we say module that exports equals auth user. So now this auth user will be like a middleware. Okay, so let's require it here, const auth user equals, so we require just a file which is I think auth user, like this, and then we'll have it here. All right, so let's see now in the front end. We can try it with Postman first to see what you have. Right, so here I'm going to duplicate this. So duplicate and say here auto login. So auto login. So we'll go to still localhost 5000. So say 5000, and we say auto login, and in the headers, okay, we'll send a token. No, not here in the authorization. See? So we send a bearer token, and this token here, okay, we'll take it from the, let's say after we log in. All right, so we say here the password like this. We log in, we get the token. So I'll take the token here, copy it, and in the auto login we send a header, some header. So the authorization, this one, I can paste it here and send. Actually, we should send the post request. So we send, and we are getting some errors here. So let's see what's going on. All right, so it says invalid token. Let's see why. As user, so we send authorization. Let's look at console.log. User token to see what we have. Log user token. Let's see what we have. Okay, so we have this token. I don't know, it doesn't work. Invalid token. So we verify the user token. Let's look at log request.header. Yeah, so authorization to see what we'll send. So we're sending the bearer and then we extract the bearer. Actually here we need to place here some space. That's probably why. So the bearer should have some space. Okay, because it's like bearer and space. So we don't need to take that space. We just need to take, okay, the actual token. So be very careful about this, guys. Okay, so if I send it, now we should get the user. Okay, so it's not sending, but it's not crashing as well. So this is the token, the decoded token that we have here. So you see that it has an IAT. Okay, you don't need to worry about this, but you have an expiration as well. This is like the number of seconds, which is just 24 hours. All right, so we need to have this ID, and then we take this ID to find the user. All right, because that's what we decoded. So the next thing here is going to be const user equals, so we await, okay, user that find one, and we just need to find the user by its ID. So underscore, say underscore ID is going to be decoded token that underscore ID. So we find the user by this ID. All right, and after that, okay, what we'll do is uh, we will check. So if the user exists or not, we say if the user doesn't exist. So if there is no user, what do we do here? We return, okay, a not found. All right, so we say return res that status 404, okay, that JSON, and we say please authenticate like this. All right, so there is no user. If there is no user, now if there is a user, what we do is, if you look at here, the user routes, okay, in the auto login here, we just send the user after we have it. Now how do we send the user? We'll attach that user to the request by saying rec that user equals now the found user. Okay, it's going to attach it, and now we call the next to go to the next middleware, right? And here I can just say now if I come back to this uh, middleware, it means that this went well, so we have the user. Okay, I can just say res that send, okay, rec that user, because the user now is in the request object. All right, so that's how we do the authentication. Now let's test it out with Postman still. I can send the login, auto login, and you see that it sends the token, so it's working. So now we have the auto login working correctly. You can remove the console log of user here, remove this, and remove this. Okay, all right. So so now we can go back to our front end and have something here. So in the app.js, I want something to happen whenever I refresh the page, or when I come, let's say when I open the app. So the use effect is a way for me to do this. I can say use effect. Okay, it takes a function like this, and I just take like an empty dependency array, which means I want this to run just once. Okay, when the application loads. So when the application loads, I want to auto login, right? So I can say here, call Axios, and say here Axios. Actually, this should come from the Axios. Let's say. All right. So Axios that post, okay, slash auto login. And what do you post for? So we want to post uh, the request coming. Let's say the token, okay, coming from the local storage. So if there is something in the local storage, we use Axios to do that. Right, guys. So now to have that, okay, I found a handy way to do it. So it's just creating an Axios file. So let's say here, not here in the src. Okay, I create Axios.js, and in this Axios.js, I can import, okay, Axios from Axios first. And now I'll just change the Axios, okay, the default first of all, by saying Axios.defaults. The base URL, we can set it up here by saying HTTP localhost 5000, okay, like this. And we will define now what we call interceptors. So this is going to be something that's going to run whenever we have a request, okay. So request, we use something that we call a config, so a function, okay. So this function is going to do things, all right, and it's going to have an error. So error handler, if there is an error, we say promise that reject, okay, error, and we export default Axios, and then this is the file that we'll use. We'll normally use Axios from the Axios package. We'll use it from here, okay. So the config here, the configuration, we'll take the token equals, so we'll say local storage that get item, we get the token, all right. And now we say const auth equals, if there is a token, okay, we set the bearer like we had in Postman, space, and we take the token. Actually, this should be backticks here and backticks here. If there is no token, okay, we just say that, okay, the authorization is null, I mean empty. And now we set the headers, so config dot headers, okay, that common, say common, the authorization is going to be the auth here, okay, and return that config, so for the request to use it. So that's how you take the Axios by default to check if there is a token and then to send that token. So now in the app here, we need to import Axios now from that Axios like this. Okay, and then we post that Axios. All right. Now the user effect will take that from React. So I can say import from React. We say user effect here. All right. So now we have user effect coming from React. So this configuration is going to help us. Okay, first of all, set up Axios. Okay, so the base URL. So you don't need to set up any base URL. For example, if I come to where we have Axios in the sign up here, I don't need anymore to have this. I can just say users, okay, but slash users. But here we need to import Axios from that slash Axios, so the file. So that slash again Axios like this. The same goes for the login. We can paste it here and Axios, okay, slash login. It's very handy because when you deploy the application, you need just to change this base URL, which is fine. All right, so now we can test it out. So when the application loads here, we want to post the auto login. That's then, okay. When we get some data, so I can say data. What we want to do is we just set the user. Now we need to import that user here, set user. All right, and we say data like this. Okay, so now we have the auto login, we implemented it. Let's test it out. So if you refresh the page now, it should auto login. All right, so as you can see, we don't have any more. Okay, so it's we have this auto login, so it's logging to the application automatically. But if I inspect and go to application here, remove that token. Okay, so we can, let's see what's going on. So we have a HTTP search localhost. We are having some errors here in the app application. It's not. All right, let's see what's going on. Let's look at the home. Axios.get. All right, so here, because we defined the Axios, I don't know why it doesn't work, but let's just use a fetch now. Okay, we can just fetch here. The fetch, then data. Okay, you need to have that then data. Okay, data.json, just to avoid the Axios. Okay, because we have defined some Axios parameters here. And it seems to be colliding with the Axios here. All right, so we change it to fetch. Let's see now. Okay, so that data, I can say here res.json, and then we get the data. Say here log data. All right, so it's like that. So data console log data, that means I just prefer to use this because I kind of uh, change this actions behavior so it doesn't work anymore. Okay, so to just gain time, I use the fetch here to make it easier. Right, so now we have the login. Let's see, inspect, uh, look at the application, and if I log in, password, we are having internal server error. Let's see what's going on. Right, so it seems to not send this the token. JWT must be provided. Alright guys, so I was trying to actually sign up with uh, an existing user. So we'll deal with the error handling so we know what's going on. But let's inspect again, look at the console, the application, and remove this token. Okay, try again. Login. Okay, so this user and the password, login. Login. All right, so now we see that it's the login works. We can try as well with the sign up. So we need to remove this again. Okay. So the sign up, let's say user 40, password, try again. Let's say user 41. We are in the, should be in the sign up. Okay. User 40 and password. So the password, submit, and now it works. All right. So now we can log in and uh, auto login. Okay. So if I refresh, all right. So we see that now it disappears. So which is good. All right. All right. So now we can implement the logout functionality, of course. So the logout functionality, what we'll do is we'll just remove the user's token. So in the user routes here, I can say here router that post, okay, logout. All right, and it takes it's going to take still async request response. All right, and now here auth user, of course, because we'll send the token. All right, and now we take that token, we find the user, and what we do is, okay, we say const user equals rec.user, and we await. So we say user dot token equals null, and we await user, okay, That's save. All right, and then we send res that status, because we don't need to send the user, we just send to 100 that send like this. And this logout in the front end, if we go to our navigation, so components, we have the nav bar here, index. Right, so we have here user end, okay. We have a nav link container. Actually, we don't need a nav link container. We can just say nav link like this. And this is going to be a logout. And when we click on this, okay, we are going to send a logout. So I can say on click handle logout. And we don't have the handle logout, of course, so we can say here const handle logout equals a function. So here we say we import Axios, of course, so import Axios from now that slash Axios, that slash again Axios, and we say Axios that post, or you can send a delete request, but we can send as well a post request by saying logout. Okay, that's then we get some response. Okay, so when we get the response back, what's going to happen is we can just say local storage that remove item like this, so the token, and we need as well to have the set user, so set user, we say set user, okay, to just null, you can say null. All right, and yeah, so after that we can have here import, okay, from React router DOM, and we import here use history, okay, and we can say const history equals use history, and now we can just replace, so history that replace, so we replace, we go to the home page. All right, don't need this response, so let's test it out now. So let's see if we have a user. Let's look at yeah, here. All right, so it's fine. If there is a user, we only show you if there is a user. So if I click on logout, so now we should, okay, it's removed the user, and when we refresh, we don't get that user again. So the local storage is removed. Look at the application. We don't get the user, and we can inspect now components to look at our app context, and we don't get the user, we just get the meals, right? So it's getting this error because we don't have a token. Okay, so we'll deal with that. But yeah, so this is, we are making good progress in this application. So next time, okay, as now we have a user, we'll deal with just saving posts, okay, to your, let's say, favorites, and removing them from your favorites, okay. And yeah, so that's it, and then we'll deal with the error messages, and you will have your application ready. All right, so I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channels for the coming videos. Peace.